field of cars just waiting here to send them on their way for a rolling start. So we'll have another tyre warming session for these guys. Not that they need much warming up now, Daz. It's certainly warmed up quite a bit outside.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of the Victorians, in particular the two across the front row and Shane Woodman, that were just getting a little bit hot under the collar in the afternoon yesterday. They really did get themselves quite hot. Shane Woodman was experiencing 88 degrees in the cabin of that car, and he said towards the end of the race he had to slow because his vision was getting a little bit blurred. So that's how extreme the sports sedans are. They now come around and they'll be controlled by the Shannons Nationals BMW Melbourne safety car, and we thank BMW Melbourne and of course Shannons Insurance for all of their help to keep that safety car going. A very, very vital part of the Shannons Nationals. These monsters just thump their way around. Even in warm-up mode, they're bedeviling, aren't they? They really do. And particularly the Randall car in its all black with the gold lettering on it. It really is the God of Thunder type of theme to it.
Yeah, and another interesting fact is that a lot of the top line sports sedans run a transaxle, something that the supercars adopted for their series, but our leading car doesn't.
Yeah, running the traditional Type 4 9-inch, which is, I guess, the strongest diff we've ever known to mankind as far as that's concerned. It's a very similar type of weapon to what NASCAR run, and they run very high horsepower, high speeds as well. So it's all about managing the equipment that you've got, and certainly so far today, and you know, we'll wait and see whether it's an ideal condition for Thomas to challenge his own lap record. And look, Gaz, I guess from our perspective, fantastic race just about to unfold, potentially another lap record. But for Steve Tomasi, I don't think we're going to see a battle being thrown down to Thomas Randall.
He's in protection mode at the moment. If he can get a second here, it gives him a great leap forward in the championship because we haven't got Tony Ricciardello. The Audi was packed up on Friday when the transaxle blew out the side of it. So, as I said, Ricciardello engine dramas for that car, they're out of it. So it's basically a two-horse race, and one of those horses is not going to the final round.
Isn't it strange that the Ricciardello Alfa and the John Gourlay-owned Audi aren't taking part in the championship this year? It's been a decade or more between those two protagonists that have been racing.
Particularly on this track as well.
We're all set to go. Rolling start. Thomas Randall gets away nicely. Have a look at Woodman from the second row. He charges really hard indeed, but it's Tomasi who we thought was just going to let this race lead down by Thomas Randall. I think Thomas Randall actually got a whole handful of wheel spin as he put the right boot into it, but Tomasi's going to lead them. They're not going to give up the Tomasis, that's for sure. They're a fighting team. If anything they've built their confidence on over the years is that they do not lay down. We thought that Stephen was going to just hang in there to try and bring the points home, but Woodman's got Crompton as well as they head down into 3. So the Victorian in the BMW, that Riverside Racing crew that also prepared that yellow Monaro of Michael Robinson, have been working so hard on these two cars to have them competitive. We've got a spinner.
Yeah, Adam Hargraves is in the Mark II car, has gone around out of turn 3. I think you were correct in saying as he fires it up, you can see flames spitting out the side of it. I think you can say that there was a lot of tyre wheel spinning out of the number 49 car there, because he spent the whole of the back straight weaving the car around, trying to get more heat into the tyres. You see one of the Mark V8s moving up a position there. That would have been the Jeff Taunton car, which was turned around in the first race and suffered some body damage, which Greg Russ spoke to Jeff during that race. But in the meantime, it's Steve Tomasi leads the way. Thomas Randall in second spot. They've lit out from the rest of them, and it's still Woodman in front of Crompton, Lacey and Bradford. The next two after that, Dennis Robson.
Tomasi wide down at turn 3 there. The De Vilbus Sky Sand Saab takes advantage of that. Woodman wide there as well, so that'll allow Crompton to range up on side. And you don't want to give Stephen Lacey 1 millimetre of opportunity, because he will jump all over it. But Shane Woodman, that power plant, bulk power pouring out of that BMW, not being able to match the pace of the cars in front. And for many years, Gaz, we've known, it's absolutely no secret, but everyone in motorsport knows that the Tomasi car in a straight line is like releasing a top fueler. As he comes onto the straight this time, Randall's definitely closer this time around. And Shane Woodman just propping up a little bit there in the number 16. That car looks absolutely immaculate, as you'd expect from a sign rider, that really does look the goods on track.
Michael Robertson there going past the start-finish line. There it is, Shane Woodman in the Chev-powered BMW Ford power plant underneath that Trans Am Ford Mustang. Then we've got the Chev Camaro, which is a sports sedan, as opposed to the car that should be coming into the background, which is the Trans Am car. Just slightly different in their configuration, deliver about the same sort of lap time.
Morris Finance leaderboard up there. Steve Tomasi leads the way from Thomas Randall, Shane Woodman, Phil Crompton, and in fifth it's Stephen Lacey, Shane Bradford, who's trying to fight back. Michael Robinson just understeering off there in seventh place. He hasn't actually come back into shot, so Robbo's disappeared off down very slowly down there. He exits three now very slowly. And then it's down to Taunton, Busk, Bright, Montgomery and Hargraves, who spun on the opening lap.
These two still at it out in front. I've been told there's 740 horsepower out of the Saab, and the engine in that particular car is out of one of Todd Kelly's boats. And we suspect built by Todd Kelly, so it'll be a pretty good power plant.
Yeah, certainly. I'm not sure who the engine builder is on the Tomasi car, but I reckon that's probably got 742.
Yeah.
And has done for about 5 or 6 years now, because it was always very much brought itself back into contention, particularly at the long straights of Sydney Motorsport Park with Darren Hossack and Tony Ricciardello in the Audi and the Alfa. But doing a really good job here at the moment. Just having a look at the lap times, they're both exploring the lap times down at the 1:08.4s. The Hankook tyre is so enduring that it does actually take 5 or 6 laps for it to get up to ultimate pace, and we saw that lap record on lap 8.
Indeed, while those Hancocks do come on a little bit later, the thing that will determine
good to go
what the lap times are is the horsepower in the engines, which they lose a little bit when it gets hotter.
Certainly do. The SB2 Chevrolet type of race engine is the one that is mostly used out there. We don't have any rotaries, or we don't even have any turbocharged cars here this weekend, which is quite strange because sports sedans is a happy hunting ground with minimal rules. In fact, one of the rules that we've all learnt very well and had hammered into us this weekend is that the rule that we do have is you have marked tyres, and you must have those marked tyres on your car.
Still a bit of bodywork flapping around on Steve Lacey's car there. As you can see in this lead, still the same. Tomasi over Randall, and I know Steve Tomasi, when he won that race down at Tailem Bend, it was like he won the series just on his own. First race win in the category.
And trying so hard.
Yeah, and I'd love to emulate that again here in this race today.
Yeah, he's got big opposition. Pinches up a wheel, and Randall, bang, goes through. And there's a change for the lead down at turn 4. Just a slight pinch up on that left-hand front as it unloaded on the Tomasi Calibra. And there was Thomas Randall in the Sky Sands DeVilbiss car. It's the Domain Homes car there with the red roll cage on the inside. Goes back to P2. Number 49 now leads the race over the number 9. It's a substantial gap back to Shane Woodman. But now we have Thomas Randall. He's this group fighting it out.
It's been on since the start, this foursome, fighting it out for what is effectively third position in the race.
Woodman really showing Crompton a clean set of heels there in the number 16. Crompton, this is definitely his home track and does a lot of racing here in state racing and all of that. So
replay hit coming up. There it is, just as Darren described, a slight pinch of that left front tyre from Tomasi has allowed Randall just to sneak on through. Didn't have to work too hard for it in the end and has taken the lead away.
This is the battle for the final spot on the podium. Phil Crompton trying to have a lunge at it. Shane Bradford, we know that's a very fast Camaro, but not being able to get onto the back of the Camaro in front of him, which is Stephen Lacey. Crompton, the Mustang-bodied sports sedan, and that Z4 BMW. Not a whole lot of BMW about it, except for really that grille out in front there.
Grille and the headlights, basically. But it's good to see different models come in. We've got Saabs, Audis, Alphas, BMWs, and then we go back to our more traditional sort of muscle cars that we see in Australia, such as the Mustang and the Monaro and the Camaros.
Certainly you have. We've got a couple of Monaros running in this race, and Michael Robinson and and Colin Smith have been the stalwarts of the Monaro body shape. And just about every round over the last 7 or 8 years, these two Monaros have been at.
A couple of good dices going on around the place, as we can see there. Colin Smith in the what we call the Fat As, because its engine is built by Fat As in Brisbane. And behind them is Jeff Taunton in one of the Mark Ford Focus V8s. Quite a few of those come out of the Ryan McLeod workshop. And of course, not only racing in Australia, but have raced literally around the world.
They certainly are, and they're all named after various different racetracks around the world as well. So it's a tidbit that you can take out of today's Sky Sand Sports Sedans. This is a little bit of a holding station at this point in the race. Woodman's certainly not being challenged by Crompton. In fact, none of these guys are challenging each other. They seem to be lining up and just sussing each other out. So lap 8, there's only 4 more laps to go. Randall has done his best lap of the race, the last lap through at a 107.77, so still half a second off the new reset lap record by the Black Saab. But Woodman leading Crompton through turn 1, coming onto the back straight. Put the wheels off in the dirt there in the last race, as did the yellow Camaro with the snake's eyes, are right behind these two on track at the moment.
Yeah,
and, really affected his run.
Yeah, Lacey had a brake issue towards the end of that last race. Put a new set of pads in it for this one, and was one of the few thankful ones that had got reduced from 15 laps back to 12, because a lot of them were saying they were experiencing brake problems. Big loads around here, particularly at turns 3, 4 and 6.
Yeah, if we ever ran the sports sedans in a nighttime situation, which we won't, because basically they run stickers for headlights, we'd see absolutely massive brake temperatures of these cars. 700 plus horsepower is where you need to be in running a V8 type of configuration. Some of the rotaries can sort of cope with 500 horsepower because they're substantially lighter. And some turbo cars, well, they're governed by how much boost they pour into them and how unreliable they want to be.
Exactly.
This car is going so well for the team at Riverside Racing. They really have produced some magnificent componentry for not only this car, but a whole lot of sports sedans that seem to be making a beeline for the door of this workshop down in Maribyrnong in Melbourne.
I think Phil Crompton's getting a bit anxious now, looking for a way past. Showed me some of his data from the last race. He did every lap of that race in the 9s. Consistency he's never seen before in that car.
It's good. It's good. It's been around a little while now. The Aussie-built Trans Am variant of the sports sedans. And just watching Randall now again in the 107.7. So he's consistently running, as much as Phil's running in the 9s, he's running in the 7.7s. Crompton look big. Look up the inside there. In fact, he's got a problem.
He's had a problem out of that corner, and Lacey's trying to get past now, so they come down to turn 6.
So he worked his way up onto the back of the Landau Science car, and then something happened just coming out of turn 5, and he's gone right back into the clutches now of Stephen Lacey.
Yeah, I think he may have just had a bit of a scare there, and it has settled a bit now, and you can see he's got the pace back. Here's a replay of it. So it may have been a little bit triggered by Woodman getting a little bit out of shape at turn 4, and he thought, I'll have a shot here, and then all of a sudden realised he couldn't get it done, and it was starting to drift away from him at the back. He got out of it, and that's where Lacey got right on the back of him.
What was interesting about those shots was the opposite lock with 700 horsepower out of the back of that Mustang, and how skillful you have to be when you start to pour on opposite lock and the car swings back the other way. I think you're right, Gary. I think he gave himself a little bit of a shock as to what was going on underneath him. Of course, these guys are strictly amateur racers. They're professional in their approach and the way they present the cars, but they all work at jobs or businesses, whatever they have along the way, and this is something they do on weekends. So the application from the driving point of view is difficult because they don't do it weekend in, week out. In fact, it's only 5 or 6 rounds a year, and they might top it up with a state round here or there. And generally, any one of these cars will go on a state round and win races.
Yeah, and they're such intricate pieces of machinery. They need constant attention, even over the course of a race weekend.
So final lap. Second penultimate lap now for Randall. And that gap is out over 5.8 seconds now back to Stephen Tomasi. So he has swung into conservation mode. And at the moment, I would suggest that Thomas has probably not got quite the car under him that he had in the earlier race today. So we'll see how that balances out. He's still got to come to the line. He hasn't done a faster sector on this lap, but there is still the last lap of the race. And if you're going to be a rock star, that's when you do your lap record.
And the gap is over 7 seconds now between first and second, and quite a gap back to this great battle that's been happening all throughout this race from the very start and still continuing.
So there's a 1.2 seconds difference in the last lap between our race leader and second place there. So Thomas is still pushing hard, but Steve Tomasi has just eased right back on the Calibra at the moment. Have a look at Thomas Randall down into turn 3. This is where the battle has lasted there, right there. Here it is, car number 49. Just above the number plate there, you'll see barn number 81, who was a Victorian sports sedan racer over many, many years. Unfortunately, we lost barn just before the Tailem Bend round, so you'll see a lot of the cars just above the number, that barn 81, just a tribute to a racer that they all raced against for many years.
Here's our race leader, excluded from race 1, started the second race off the back of the grid, won that one and has come through from second in the early part of this one. To get around the last corner, he'll take race 3 of round 4 of the Sky Sands National Series. A little bit of a tail out of the last corner, and it goes across the line to take the win.
A bit of a celebration there too. Came on the brakes in the line and lit him up just to say, hey, we've got plenty left in reserve.
A second across the line. Steve Tomasi, who will actually win the round and extend his points lead, but P3 is still up for grabs.
It's alive and well, isn't it?
It is.
Shane Woodman, he's going to step on to the podium for the first time in his national sports sedan career. Took a Victorian championship a number of years ago now in the first iteration of this car, and charges to the line. Welcome to victory lane for Shane Woodman. Gets himself the last step on the podium. He'll be wrapped with that after experiencing 88 degrees inside the cabin yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's pass-out temperature, isn't it?
Yep.
You don't want to be passing out in one of these when you're going full noise.
That's exactly right. 740 horsepower or thereabouts. Here's the way they finished in the Sky Sands National Sports Sedan Series for race 3, the final race for this weekend. Thomas Randall has reset the lap record in the Saab 93 over Steve Tomasi, who's confirmed his points haul at the top of the table. Shane Woodman, his first national podium, and what a result there for the crew from Riverside Racing and Landau Signs. Phil Cropton into 4th, the Queenslander making it home there. Stephen Lacey out of New South Wales in 5th. Shane Bradford into 6th place. Michael Robinson in the Monaro in 7th place. Colin Smith in 8th in the second of our Monaros. Jason Buskin, Adam Hargraves in the Mark II V8 1 lap down.
Here's the highlights of race 3, and not often done, but on this occasion it was, with Tomasi going around the outside into turn 1, takes the lead away from Thomas Randall, as the two already set about moving further and further away. Repaired Mark II car, well, Mark 1 car going through and a Mark II car going around. Adam Hargraves spins out of turn 3. Here's the change of lead coming up out of turn 4. Little pinch of a tyre was just enough for Thomas Randall to go through.
He slipped on through there, didn't he? Took full advantage of that. We knew that was going to happen. All Stephen Tomasi had to do was succumb to the pressure that Randall was applying to him. There it was, and it was such a small mistake. Just about any other day of the year, you'd get away with it. This is where the spot for third on the in the race nearly swapped around there. Phil Crompton experiencing a huge understeer. This is coming to the checkered flag there, and he gave it a real fistful as he got to the line there and drove away. So took a win after a pretty torrid weekend for the Dream Motorsport crew with the Saab. Of course, going to rear of grid for the first race today. Bring it home with 2 victories and a lap record. Really good way to finish the weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, and a good fight for 4th there. 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th, the 4 of them battling it out all the way through.